You know, the funny thing is, right, I was dusting off my old Nintendo Wii. Oh my God, this was a disaster looking for all my cables. I had bags of cables. I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe, because my TV doesn't have composite ports. So I had to find my old component cables, which I had a 3-in-1 for Xbox 360, PlayStation 2, 3, and the Wii. I was searching for it everywhere. And then I have a component to HDMI converter. So plug it into there. It was just overall, it was a disaster. But I finally get it in, playing some old school games. I mean, I was playing Mario Kart, Mario Wii, the classics, the Conduit 2, great sci-fi shooters. I don't know why they didn't remaster or remake those games. Those games are awesome. I think it kind of showed like the Wii was more than just like the Mario games. But the one game that stood out, I think I played more so, was a game called Spectrobes Origins. Now, I remember getting this game when the Wii first came out, but I don't remember that much about it. And Googling and trying to Google and doing some research about this series only had 3 games, and they weren't that, I don't want to say not successful, because they were successful in their own right, but the series kind of died out as quickly as it started. And I was trying to figure out why. Why? Because I really enjoyed Spectrobes Origins. I was having a blast. I mean, 2 hours went by. I didn't even realize I was playing for 2 hours. The game was just completely fun. It was fun. It felt like Pokemon mixed with Kingdom Hearts and, Digimon and Monster Ranchers and some of those other franchises that are more popular. But the game was just fun. I had so much fun playing it. And it got me thinking, why did this game die out so quickly? What happened to it? So, here are my thoughts after doing some research and playing it more and playing the older versions. Why I think this game finally died. No. No, but, I think we start off in the beginning. This game had such a weird development cycle. I was just reading about it. I was reading about the history and stuff like that. And it turned out the original concept was they wanted it to be a Pokemon killer for originally, which was kind of weird to think about it. Originally, it was intended to be on the PlayStation 3. If I read it right, I was like, what? A Pokemon killer for the PlayStation 3. And playing the game, I could see why, because it does have the monsters and raising them, battling them, training them. Catching them is a bit weird. It's not the same as Pokemon, but you could see the influence of Pokemon with their designs, and you can see the influence of Kingdom Hearts and some of the other franchises with the whole artistic aesthetic. But really, a PlayStation 3 title, and it just, I don't know what happened, but it ultimately, I guess they changed their minds, or I have no idea what happened, but they ultimately changed it for the Nintendo DS, and the whole game just got completely remade for the DS. And I feel like that was the first major mistake, was trying to compete with Pokemon on Pokemon's main platform, which is the handheld consoles. Pokemon did have home consoles, but come on, the Pokemon series primarily were on the handheld consoles, the Game Boys, Game Boy Colors, Game Boy Advance, DS, 3DS, and now the Switch, which is, a hybrid of the handheld and the home console. So that was the first mistake. You're competing against Pokemon in its home turf. You better make sure you're bringing your AAA game. And just the whole aesthetic of this game felt like you could tell this game was not made for handheld. I mean, there was a reason why Pokemon stuck with the 2D sprites for so long, because handhelds at that time just wasn't there yet. It wasn't there. I mean, yeah, the PSP, with their 3D was great, but in terms of Nintendo wise, 3D games just didn't look that great for the DS. I mean, you could really tell like the nature of this game, like it didn't do the game's graphic justice, especially when you look at Spectral Origins, the third title for the Nintendo Wii. This game screamed home console, and just the game just looked bad on the DS. Like it just looked bad, and it really gave like a very bad presentation, especially when you compare it to like the smooth 2D sprites of like Pokemon's and their character designs. Everything about that fit Nintendo's DS. Everything about this game feels like this game should have originally stood for the PS3, or they should have waited and put it on the Nintendo Wii when the Wii first came out, or it should have been put on like the GameCube or like PS2. I mean, look at Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. That's like, I could see that game fitting in that type of 3D space. I mean, everything about this game screamed 3D anyway, so it wouldn't be a huge leap to make that into like a GameCube game, especially because the GameCube was still extremely popular even in its later lifespan. So it's everything about the game just screamed home console, and I felt like the switch to the DS really hurt this game momentum, because I feel like it just should have been on a home console. Like this game just did not fit well for the handheld. I mean, your main screen was the bottom screen for one, where in DS games primarily the main screen was the top screen, and it's just overall it was wonky. It was, it just didn't feel right to play on my hands. And that translates to the combat. Once again, the combat for this game felt like it was designed for a traditional controller, and things just didn't really come out that well. I mean, you could see this gameplay. I was really struggling on trying to play this game on the DS, and you could tell I was struggling with the buttons and trying to figure it out, the designs. And playing Spectral Origins, like everything felt right. The buttons felt right. Everything felt right. It felt like they were learning, like, okay, for this third game, we really need to take it away from the handheld, put on traditional consoles, because everything that was a positive, that could have been a huge positive, was a negative on the handheld. But once you transfer that to the traditional home console space, I mean, everything just felt great. Like, I don't know what it was. Like, combat just felt super, super smooth and super easy. Boom. A button, you attack. You flick the controller. Your monster attacks. Z button. Everything just felt so easy. And on the DS, I don't know. I felt like it was overly complicated. And, like, the top screen was, like, pointless. I was like, what? Like, if they were going to do the handheld space, they could have done it similar to Pokemon style, where your main battle was in the top, and then you basically use the traditional controller scheme as best as you can, or maybe, switch it to not real time, but turn-based, but then that would have been close to Pokemon. So everything, like, this whole combat scheme just felt off for the 2D Nintendo DS. And we go back to the overall design. The overall concept was, I felt like they were too much into trying to be the Pokemon killer. They really lost sight of this game's strength and the strength of the franchise, which is, their character designs. That's one of their biggest strengths I feel like this game had. And it was like kind of muffled and kind of forgotten because of the poor choice in the consoles that it was on. Minus the Wii, like that was the best thing they did. But, you want to make a good first impression. You want to put your best foot forward, especially if you want to try to label the Pokemon killer. And putting it on the handheld where Pokemon has dominated since like the mid 90s, they already mastered this. That's why Pokemon has been so popular. They mastered how to make a great handheld game. Everything was mastered by the time the DS came, so they already had it down packed, and you're gonna come out and just poor 3D graphics, clunky controls that did not fit right because it did not translate well to the handheld consoles, because this game wasn't originally supposed to be on a handheld. It was supposed to be on the traditional home console, and everything positive about this game just kind of went downhill. The character design, the stories, everything was positive, was overshadowed, and it just kind of sucked because I really like the character designs. Like, I will take the character designs of Spectrobes over the character designs of like Pokemon. Let's take a look at right here. We got their mascots, the head-to-head mascots. You got Pikachu, and then you have the Spectrobes mascot, which is Koma Inu. I don't know if I said that right, but Pikachu was very basic because Pikachu was designed for handhelds and their limited sprites and their limited color palettes and stuff like that. But Koma Inu, like, very detailed. See all these different shades of red, and then you have the blues and the highlights. Everything's just screen gray. And then when you look at its evolved form, Koma Noto. Look at this. This guy is bad ass. Like, this guy is just badass. This guy, you would not want to like touch it for nothing. You look at Pikachu and it's like, oh, how cute. You look at Raichu and Pichu's and you're like, oh. You look at Komonoto, you're like, oh, let me stand back. And then you look at its final form, Commodorus, and you're like, what? Like, whoa. Dude, like, look at this guy. Look at him, like, oh my god, look at the flames on this guy. This dude is like, I would take these character designs over Pokemon any day of the week. And like, that's the thing. They had such a great concept here. They had such a great concept that I don't even know why they focus so much on trying to compete Pokemon head to head on Pokemon's own turf, because like the story was great, the character design was great, but they and like even the crawls, like the main antagonist monsters, they were great, but everything else just fell flat because they focused too much on probably the gotta catch 'em all aspect, because Spectral Origins didn't have that many monsters. I think only had like 100 or a little over that 100 plus, and Pokemon's, by the time the DS got here, they were at close to like 1,000, I think, or somewhere around that numbers. I don't know the exact numbers, but they were about close enough, and it really showed, because when you look at the sales, Spectrobes Origins did like, I think it's like 1.6 million. That's not a bad number. Obviously, when you look at what it takes to be a successful AAA game, I think you need to sell at least 1 million copies. So, obviously the game was semi-successful, but when you look at some of like Disney Interactive's more successful franchise, like the Kingdom Hearts series, those games sold probably around 30 million copies total, give or take. And then you look at Pokemon's and they're like, okay, nobody's gonna beat Pokemon's numbers, but it's just sad. It's just really sad. It sucks because I really do enjoy this game, and the game ended in a cliffhanger too, because the ending of Spectral Origins is the main antagonist does survive, and I'm kind of curious about what they thought of the next chapter. But I just felt like if they would have originally brought out this franchise on the home consoles and better map the combat, and stuck it with their settings, their story, and the character designs, I feel like this franchise would have been a lot better than it originally did, because you can't compete with Pokemon on its home turf. You just can't, especially at that time, like 2006, 2009, which I think that's when this game franchise started. It started like in 2005 or somewhere around there. By then, Pokemon was just a monster by then. I mean, I think it grew into a monster series in like probably the Game Boy Advance era. It started like becoming the monster that is now. But yeah, like the DS was just like, nobody was gonna touch Pokemon. Nobody was gonna beat a Pokemon killer. Pokemon was just too big. But you know, this game had some great concepts, great character designs. The story was good. You know, it had a lot going for it. But ultimately, them focusing on trying to be the Pokemon killer, you know, they lost sight on just the fundamentals of choosing the right platform, the right controller scheme, the right battles, because this game had a lot going for it. Just those crucial errors. It's kind of sucked, man, because I really do like this game. I really do miss this game. I hate it for the DS, but I love the Wii version. And I was watching the webisodes on like Disney's Games YouTube channel, and I could see this game being a monster platform. Not as big as Pokemon, but I could see it, you know, being pretty successful. And that comes to the end of my video, guys. You know, as always, if you have a comment below, subscribe to my channel if you want more content. And, you know, I'm trying to be more active with you guys, trying to be more respectful. So, as always, guys, have an awesome day.